Well, hello folks. It has been a while, about a month since I loaded my last video. So I wanted to make a video, kind of an update, a garden walk and talk. I haven't done one of those in a long time, a walk and ramble. I promise I won't ramble that much because it is hot. As you can tell, look at these little guys. Nothing is doing well. We are in the middle of stage 3 drought. And much of the state is in stage 5 drought, and it's about the worst level as it gets. We're at a point where farmers are mowing under their crops to take the loss, because that's actually more profitable than just taking care of the crops until they're ready to go to market. And I myself am in a very similar situation. I've mentioned in past videos that I was reducing, kind of cutting back how much I usually do year over year. And I think that was a good decision. I've talked with quite a few nursery owners, and they're all having trouble. There are piles and piles of pots with dirt in them and dead plants being stacked up at nurseries across the state. So the fact that I chose not to go very heavy this year with my plantings actually paid off ultimately, although I still have some things that I planted, and I still have some crops that have been in the ground for years and years that need care. So a lot of the reason why I haven't made any videos is I didn't think I was doing anything that was very interesting. I was largely coming outside and watering. Yes, I have had to supplementally water, although we are on water restriction, so I have to be very choosy with the amount of water I dole out to each plant, and I only get to do it a few days per week. So that has caused, I have had some losses, and, but I've also had some things do okay. Like right here, I'm in my front yard garden bed. And if you remember earlier in the summer, I did a video, a tour series, showing all of my plants that I have planted. And this little guy right here, and also this one, these little broadleaf greens you see are Georgia collard. And at the time, when I made the video, the first video, all you saw was the veins of the leaves. There was no meat of the leaf left because they had been ravaged by cabbage worms. And I was having more pest pressure this year than I had previous years attacking some of these greens. And I mentioned in that video that they will grow back. These particular greens are extremely well adapted to this environment. And sure enough, as you can see, they've recovered nicely. They'll live for several years and provide me greens, so I'm pretty happy about that. That's just one of the examples of the things that are doing pretty well, and as you can see over here, here's an example of something that's struggling. So these are Jerusalem artichokes, and they're widely touted as being drought resistant and a great choice for people who live in arid environments, and they are. But I just wanted to show this to show they are not immune to needing irrigation. If you find yourself in an extreme drought situation, you're going to be irrigating your crops. And if you have an urban or suburban farm like me, and that means you don't have a well, so you pay for your water, that makes farming or even gardening for a lot of people cost prohibitive. So, I've mentioned before in the past, the counter to that is to rain capture, to build your soil up so that way it holds water better, has a higher amount of organic material, and to use mulch and shade. I've mentioned shade is key in this region, especially if you want to run a profitable farm, and that's absolutely the case. So that's a little update as to why I haven't really been filming. I'm out here 5 to 8 hours a day working on the plants. Most of that is irrigation and weeding and trellising and things like that. Just stuff that I find personally would not be I can't find a way to make it entertaining to watch in a YouTube video, but that's what's been going on. I can't really repot any plants because of the extreme heat. It would put them through too much shock. I have a whole bunch of repotting to do, and I don't trim my trees during this time of the year because, again, it could potentially shock them too much, and I don't want to lose any trees. So that means a lot of my stuff that I do typically in the garden is kind of on hold until fall. And I want to take you around just to show you the native species, how they are struggling as well. This here is elbow bush, Foresteria pubescens. a very hardy native to this area. And it's going to make it just fine, but you can see it ain't doing well. You can see here, this is what most everything looks like in my area. Dead or dormant. This is what you're looking at here. It's not really dead, it's dormant. It's not really grass either. You can see here we have another native plant, a sunflower. I admire this little sunflower, although it may not look so great. It's not had a drop of water during this entire 3-month drought. So that brings up a good topic that I actually have been wanting to discuss for a while. So I'll discuss it right now, and that is crop choice. When you're trying to, say you're doing permaculture in an area where there's really not a big permaculture community, as is the case where I'm at in the cross timbers of Texas. So you don't really have a community to fall back on to get information on their experience on what crops they grew and what did well and what guilds are good and all that kind of jazz. So how do you pick crops when you're like one of the first pioneers in your area doing permaculture? Well, I used the native crops as my inspiration. You can see this sumac ain't doing too well either. Yeah. It's a very useful plant, by the way, this flame leaf sumac, prairie sumac. So how do you pick your crops? Well, look at your native crops. What are the adaptations that they have, and what domestic crops share those adaptations? What does the lowly sunflower have? Well, it's got fuzzy leaves, which helps reduce the amount of direct sun on the leaf, helps reduce moisture loss in the leaf. It has an adaptation. See how it goes wilty here? Yeah, that's partially because of low water, but also when you come here at night, these leaves are perked right back up. So this little wiltiness that you see in the leaves is to actually reduce the angle of the sun, so it's not getting such direct sunlight on it. And another thing you'll notice if you ever dig up a sunflower is they have a taproot. Most of the native plants here that I have, they survive because they have a taproot. That's really, really essential because it goes down really deep and it's able to get water when there's very low water. So that's another adaptation that I would look for. I'll try to find a better example on another sunflower, but you can see these little hairs on the stem. As the sunflower gets older, these hairs get much more durable, and they're almost like thorns. That's another nice little adaptation to have in a crop, because that keeps pests, or reduces pests from getting on the plant and chewing it up, like in my case, invasive garden and milk snails, which have caused me a great deal of problem in my crops. So that's just a kind of a quick blurb, a little quick discussion. Maybe I'll do another video on it and take a tour of a larger sampling of native plants. This video is just really to explain the challenges I'm having trying to create content during a drought when there really isn't a whole lot of work going on. It's really just trying to maintain everything and keep it alive so it doesn't go extinct. Yeah, you can see we got some strawberries struggling, everything's brown. We have a few crops. You can see some of this is green because I've watered it. And then you can see an area that has never been watered, and you can kind of see the contrast. And yeah, I'm not watering as much as I would like. Not enough to get a substantial yield, but we're still getting some food. But mostly it's just watering so I don't lose some of my perennials. That's mainly what the objective is, because perennials take the most investment, both in time and in money typically. So I let a lot of my annuals go. I still have a few annuals, things that I'm growing to replenish my seed bank. But annuals I was growing just for food, I've let some of them go just to reduce the amount of water that I have to use to irrigate. You might be saying, oh, well, get on the good foot and start rain capturing, you fool. I have a little bit of rain capture, but if you run the calculations, the amount of rain capture you have to do to keep things alive in a drought, a severe stage 3 or above drought, well, I'll just put it this way. At least half my yard would be dedicated to water containment for me to make it through a extreme drought situation, and even that may not be enough. I do have some problems with soil quality. I've mentioned this in many videos. My soil is basically this: rock and clay, useless, low nutrient clay. So I'm doing what I can. It's going to take time, but when you find yourself in these extreme weather situations, there really just isn't much you can do as a gardener or a farmer. Just do your best, get out there and sweat your butt off and do your work, and hope luck is on your side. So yeah, what you're looking at here are some native crops, native sunflowers. You see they're still able to produce flowers, but they don't look so great. So the last adaptation I'll leave you with is a crop that can go dormant. It'll just completely turn brown, lose all of its leaves. I have some trees that do that, some native trees that they just lose all their leaves. So at some point in the summer, they just say, oh, screw it, and they just go dormant. And then in the fall, we get some more water and leaves come back out and they'll grow a little bit again. So crops that have that adaptation might be good for a permaculture situation in an arid region. All right, folks, I promise more content coming soon. I have some grow guides and some other videos I just haven't finished editing. And I'll get those out to you. And I hope that your summer is a lot wetter and a lot more enjoyable than mine has been. All right, folks, later on. Y'all have a good one.